Hiya! Welcome back to another exciting video. Today we're going to check out this video from Lost in the Pond. It's titled, I only heard this sound after moving to America. When I actually saw this title, I was like, what could be the sound that is unique to America? I mean, only America. What kind of sound is that? So some sounds came to my mind. Could it be train sound? Could it be birds chirping? What sounds could it be? Well, today we're going to be watching this together. Before we dive into it, I'm Oge. Welcome to the channel. If it's your first time here, so excited to have you here. Do well to subscribe here. Just smash that red subscribe button, okay? Like this video. Drop in the comment section what you think about the video. Turn on your post notification bell so you get notified anytime I drop a new video. Let's quickly check this out together.
Hello. For some reason, I woke up next to a tree this morning, and that reason could be because I couldn't get to sleep in my actual bed. Because for the first time in as many days, it was autumn. And that meant that my bedroom was completely silent. And you might be watching this thinking, I'm really confused right now. And if you are, that you could be British. Because in America, for the most part, your bedroom and most of the rooms in the house, especially in the summertime, are not silent. There's this little thing called white noise. And white noise is this thing that seems to permeate American society in general, and something that Americans tell me that they can't do without when they go to bed. And for me, it's the other way around. You know, in Britain, I grew up with just really quiet, peaceful bedrooms, with the exception of my dad snoring in the next room. I sort of got used to that for 26 years. I got used to this sort of just, I don't know, this general silent ambience. Is that even a thing? And then when I moved to America, bear in mind this was in the winter, so it hadn't yet happened yet, but by the time the summer started to heat up, we were putting on the air conditioning units, right? And of course, famously, we still haven't come around to that idea in the UK. It just became this thing. It sort of happened to me that as soon as I moved here, without realizing it, was falling asleep to white noise. And I think after about a year of that, it sort of clicked that this isn't how things used to be. So in America, every autumn, it takes me right back to my childhood. Briefly, because then the winter turns up and you have to have a fan on in the bedroom because the heating is too hot. It's like a catch-22. But while I was laying there awake at night before I fell asleep next to this tree, I had some thoughts about some of the other sounds that I commonly hear in the United States that I would never have heard in England. And if you listen carefully, you can probably hear one of those sounds right now. Hear that? That is, well, North American bird species, most likely anyway, because in the UK, the bird that you would hear most commonly is a wood pigeon, because it makes that really distinctive sound all across most of Europe, I think. And it just goes, whoop, 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 whoop. I realise I'm making bird sounds in public. Here, you don't really hear that sound very often because wood pigeons aren't native to North America. And instead, you'll hear the sounds of many birds. I mean, here in the Midwest, you've got cardinals, you've got the red-winged blackbird, you've got mourning doves, which of course comprise about 33% of my own family. And so the general bird ambience differs greatly between Britain and the United States. And of course, America, being the giant country that it is, boasts a stupid amount of birds and an amount of stupid birds, but that's every country. And you know, the noise or the sound, the ambience that they produce differs immensely depending on where you are in the country. So I can only speak for here. I've seen a cardinal sitting outside of my house on a telephone wire dropping a massive but all the time chatting. So if you are the sort of person who's really into birds, which is all English people once they pass the age of 40, then if you move to America, get yourself a bird book. So those things still, I don't know if they exist, but look it up on the internet, which birds are in your local area. And then what about the sound that you hear at a zebra crossing / crosswalk? Again, those differ all throughout the United States. Where I live, you hear things like, the crosswalk sign is on, the crosswalk sign is on, and we get the picture, mate.
Oh my gosh.
And I've been to places here where it almost sounds like a machine gun, like, right, which really makes you want to run across the road, so at least it gets its job done efficiently. But it is mildly terrifying. In Britain, I can't really remember how it goes. It's something like beep, 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 beep. Probably making that up. Producers, can we look up what it sounds like in Britain? Over the last 2 years, one sound that I've heard commonly here in Chicago is my cat, but also tornado sirens. Tornado sirens
Wow.
go off when we're put into a tornado warning, and that's when we have to go down to our basement, get away from all of the windows, and just sort of stay put until the local authorities tell us that we can leave. In fact, my cat is well drilled in this by now. And you might be thinking, ooh, Lawrence, why are you including tornado sirens and not tornadoes themselves? And the reason is simple, because while tornadoes might be devastating when they do in fact strike, Americans are likely going to hear more tornado sirens in their life than they are tornadoes. And come to that, Britain isn't itself without the odd twister, and I'm not just referring to the sweaty board game. As a matter of fact, England experiences more tornadoes per square mile than any other country on Earth. It's just that none of them are strong enough to feature in films with Helen Hunt. So they very rarely cause fatalities. I promise I am happy about that. This is just my default face. But the tornado siren is most certainly something I'd never heard until I moved to the United States, although that's not entirely true. Because in Britain we do have such sirens, and they were once used for alerting us to air raids, and nowadays to another weather phenomenon, floods. But
I feel like it will be difficult to adapt to situations like this. I mean, okay, the first thing he mentioned was white noise. White noise, is it now? I'm trying to ask now, is it the AC, the sound that comes from the AC? Because you know they barely use ACs in the UK. So is it the sound that comes from the AC, or there's something called white noise? And this is my first time of actually hearing that word. If it's the sound that comes from the AC, of course, right? But if it's just like a normal sound, then it is weird. And I feel like if you're moving to the US for the first time, or as an immigrant or something like that, it will be very difficult for you to adapt, especially when you're coming from a place where there is dead silence in the night. Do you get what I mean? Like he mentioned that it is dead. Like, how do you guys sleep? So the noise, the white noise or something like that, helped them sleep in the UK. So when he moved to the US, it was totally different. I mean, the bird sound, different bird sounds, which is very, very disturbing, because someone like me, I would barely sleep if there is like kind of noise. So I'm used to the dead silence, honestly. So moving to a country where you hear so many sounds, like the tornado whistling, oh my gosh, how would you sleep? It is so difficult. But anyway, this is actually very interesting to know. I mean, I've never heard of this before. I never knew this was a thing, right? I never knew this was a thing. Interesting.
Nowadays to another weather phenomenon, floods. But I can tell you unequivocally that nothing prepared me this year for the moment when I was just standing in a wooded area with my wife, and all of a sudden, that's not a plane in a heavy wind. That is the siren. Just my impersonation of
Wow.
it. And it was deafening. It was deafening. I genuinely thought the Germans were coming until I looked at my calendar, realized it was an invisible watch, and that it wasn't the 1940s. So perspective is everything. I mean, it's always nice when you can just sit there and say, thank goodness it's just a tornado. Anyway, normally when we're hankering down in that shelter, otherwise known as the basement, you do find yourself morbidly listening out for that whoosh sound, right? Or at least I do. But most of the time, all you're left with is crickets. Not literally, that would be weird. Although it does bring me on to another point, crickets. I'm not talking about the sport. Of course, we hear that all the time in the English summer.
Insects.
Not so much here. But crickets, the insect. I've talked about these before, of course. The sound that they make is very prominent on this side of the ocean. In Britain, we don't have that ambience, and it's a blooming shame, because it's a very relaxing sound. I've never really articulated that before. I've talked about crickets on this channel in the past,
sound, yeah.
But it is. It's a sound that I can actually sit there in the park listening to crickets, which is weird because this is insects mating, or at least sending out a mating call. And I'm there casually listening in on it. Imagine if it was humans and I was doing that. It seems like we have alternative rules when it comes to other members of the animal kingdom. I'm not complaining, don't get me wrong. I don't want to.
Sounds like you are.
Humans who should keep themselves to themselves. So those are just some of the sounds that I thought of when I woke up next to that tree this morning. And Mum, if you are watching, I didn't really wake up next to a tree. It's just for the narrative of this video. It's a weird narrative. That's it for this episode. Let me know in the comments below some of the sounds that you hear on a daily basis that you don't think other people will hear in other parts of the world. I'm Lawrence Brown. You can follow me on Twitter at LostInThePondUS, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel so that I don't have to. One sound that my patrons hear every week is the secret sound of my voice on our secret live streams. If you would like to become a patron of Lost in the Pond, you can do so today at Patreon.
So let's know in the comment section what other sounds you think you hear that other people in other parts of the world would never hear. Like, this is my first time of actually paying attention to this. I feel like birds sound, well, maybe in the countryside, you get to hear where maybe you live in like a nature reserve where you have lots of trees and all of that. Then you hear lots of birds, but it's not really common here where I stay. But of course, when you travel to the UK, there's this dead silence. But him making mention of all this sound, it's actually very weird, because honestly, I've never really paid attention to things like this, like the bird sound, cricket, tornadoes, the zebra crossing. He mentioned lots of sounds. So let's know which sound is actually particular to your country, which is not particular to other countries. It's just unique to your country. Like, people may not know about this except you in your country. So let's know. This is actually where to be honest, there's no sound that's particular to my country, to be honest. Maybe AC, because we use a lot of AC. It's a hot region, so we use a lot of AC, so that maybe the AC sound. But it's not everybody in everybody's house. It's not everybody in their house that use AC, so I wouldn't really say AC, but I would say what sound is particular. There's no particular sound here, to be honest. There's no, but I would love to know yours in your country. If you stay in the US, which of these sounds did he not mention? If you stay in the UK, is there any sound that's actually particular? The pedestrian, not the pedestrian, like the zebra crossing light. The zebra crossing, like that sound that comes from zebra crossing, like, does it make noisy like in the middle of the night? I'd love to know, because it makes that beep 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 beep. In the UK, it makes that beep 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 sound. Yeah, because I'm sure that if it makes that sound in the middle of the night, people that stays along the road would actually hear that sound from the middle of the night, and it can be very uncomfortable. But let's know what you guys think. What are those sounds that are particular to your country or your region? Let's know in the comment section. Do well to like, share, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and do not forget to subscribe. I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.